What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 37 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today I had a Cleveland native. He's currently in LA these days. Geoffro Cause. He's a producer, singer, songwriter, overall very talented musician. I've been waiting the last few months to get to interview Geoffro, and we finally made it happen this week, so I'm very happy to get him on the show. We talked about a lot of great things today. He discussed kind of his early influences, Nirvana, Pink Floyd being a couple of them, Kanye West as well. He said around the time that College Dropout came out is when he started to get into doing a lot of hip-hop. Overall, he's a very diverse producer. He's worked with Beyoncé, Kehlani, a lot of other pop acts, and some other hip-hop and R&B acts as well. And he also talked about his move to LA, which I believe, according to the timeline he said, was about 2009 or 2010 when he made the move to LA, and he kind of just worked from there. He's worked the last 10 plus years to kind of get where he is now as far as being able to have a sustainable career. And I appreciate all the advice he gave today to kind of pretty much to any upcoming musician about how, you know, there's a lot of risk taking involved in these decisions we make every day. And that's whether, you know, you decide to move to a big city or you're just kind of doing it from your house online or whatever the case may be. You have to eventually kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit in order to see the growth. And that to me was the biggest thing about this episode that I took from it, at least. And, you know, I think you guys can take a lot of these tidbits as well. And I appreciate Geoffro, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the new music that he's been working on coming out very soon. He goes into a little bit more detail about that and who you can expect to hear from him working with in 2021. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 37 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today we got a Cleveland native, actually. He's a really dope songwriter, producer, singer. This guy does a little bit of everything. He's worked with Beyoncé, he's worked with Kehlani, a bunch of other artists. We're probably going to get into that here. Geoffro Cause is here. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. And again, like I said, thank you for getting back with me. And, you know, it took a while, but we finally made this happen tonight, and I'm really excited about it. So to start out, we kind of just have the guests kind of give a little bit of background info, kind of how you got into music, just the real basic stuff for those that might not be aware of you and your work so far.
Absolutely. So, let's see. I started playing piano when I was 5. My older brothers were playing, so I just really was inspired, wanted to play. I had this thing where I just wanted to be hogging the bench all the time. By the time I was 10 through 12, I was picking up the saxophone and the guitar, and probably about that age, 12 or 13, is when I decided I wanted to be a songwriter. So, and then throughout my teenage years, I started singing and rapping, and that was when I started recording. I bought an old school 4-track recorder on tape because that was my time, and also I didn't really have money for anything digital at that point. So that's kind of how it started, very humble. And I went to school in Boston. I met a bunch of musicians and kind of learned from different people as far as new recording techniques and shit like that. And over time I just kept, with the whole original thing of doing it myself. And I just developed my sounds and all that. I've always been a songwriter artist, but the production thing kind of became my thing because I love every style of music. So that's the blessing. And then growing up in the part of Cleveland I was from, there wasn't too many people doing music the way I was doing it. There was people in punk groups and maybe some metal bands and stuff. So, I jammed with friends and stuff, but there was never quite the same level of interest or dedication. So that kind of just pushed me to do it myself,
Yeah, that's super crazy because I always like to hear people's stories and kind of how they got into it and everything. And I remember when I first discovered you, I think you produced for PJ a song called "I'm Good," right? That was you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's the first
Hmm.
song I heard that like you were credited on. I was like, I fucking love this song, and I'm like, I gotta check out this guy's stuff. And then I saw like you worked with Beyonce and like all these other people, and so I've just been following you ever since. So and
So,
like the diversity, I really hear that, and I'm gonna get in. I have another question later on about the diversity and everything because I find it. I always love like producers, especially that kind of have like a wide range of like where they go and the styles and everything. So kind of interested to hear about that, but as far as like the process of like how you begin a track, is there ever any certain way you're starting like the process? Is there like you just start with maybe drums or like a lead or something, or does it kind of depend on like the artist you're working with or kind of the environment you're in at the time?
mhm. Yeah, it's always like a different situation. I think back in the day, I used to just be like starting with drums, and then I kind of realized that um, it's a. I think it's more beneficial to just like have some melody or chords or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So a lot of times I will like just come up with like different samples or whatever it is, chord progressions of some sort, and I just like work on those and build up my library. So some sessions I'll just straight up come in there and kind of go through it just to save time or just to quickly inspire people, and just I'll go through different things, judging on the atmosphere or like a lot of times in the beginning of a session, we'll just be kicking it. We'll be like having a conversation and just like, you get to learn about these people that a lot of times are strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And, after like however long it takes, you might have a song idea already just by our conversation. And we'll go off of that and I'll just grab a guitar or I'll get on the keys or whatever it is. Or if like I can already sense their vibe is like they like to write to a beat, and I'll go through my beat library, or I'll just pick a little one of those what I was mentioning earlier, like a progression. Those usually seem to be the most popular, and then we'll go off of that, and then we'll develop it. We'll add drums to it, or we'll just focus on the song and getting a hook first or whatever, because everybody just has so many different styles. But a lot of times when I'm by myself, like creating a full beat or whatever, like um, a lot of times I just like to kind of go through my own playlists or whatever, like on Spotify, things I've
Mm-hmm.
been randomly like liking, and just kind of go through them and see if I can like find that original inspiration, from whatever reason I like that song. I'll play it again and be like, oh yeah, that's right. There's that one part that like I need to do something like that, whatever it is that spoke to me, and then I'll just start something like that and then develop it, and if I have like all the time in the world, I might spend like 3 plus days on a beat, just to get it right. Um, yeah, sometimes my techniques are a little weird in my own opinion, but because I'll just keep remaking the same shit. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be like, this is cool, but like I fell out of love. I don't. There's something about it I don't like, and then I'll restart something or keep some aspects of it, recycle it, whatever it is. But in the session life, like I said, it's always different. So I like to come in prepared and like have like a template ready, maybe some chord progressions or samples or full beats, or just like if I get a preview of that person or those whoever it is, writer, artist, um, and I hear that they like just want to do it on a guitar, then that's cool too. Like
Mm-hmm.
we'll just keep it old school and jam until we find the right idea. Then we'll record it.
Mm-hmm. I would think too for like sessions, especially to have stuff like kind of just in your back pocket and be like, we're gonna talk about the with the artist and see kind of what direction they're heading in, and then be like, oh, I have something kind of like that. I can play it for you right now. And then like once they hear the idea, they might mess with it, or even if they don't, they could be that could spark another idea, and they could be like, well, what if we try this? And then you kind of just end up building up something totally different. So like I kind of know what you're talking about just from like the producer perspective because I've kind of been trying to do that myself with like just trying to get in the artist's head a little bit that has nothing to do with music, just kind of like where they're at in their life even can help you kind of understand like how to build it out and to what they're going for musically and everything. So it's kind of just like it all comes back around like full circle in a way, but it all kind of just depends on where each specific artist is at that moment. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. My favorite sessions or songwriting process is straight up just like when everybody's on the same wavelength. We all have good energy, and you just feel like you're meeting a new friend, and you just start having conversations. And next thing you know, you're like, you'll be like, hold up, that last thing you just said, that's it. Let's go with that. Something relatable that they just brought up naturally. That way, we're not like just trying to sit there and like, think like, how can we make a cool song? Sometimes it feels a little forced.
Yeah,
but
it seems to like never work that way because you really got to have like that relationship with them beforehand. Because if you don't, you're just kind of like throwing things at a wall and just waiting for something, and it might never happen. You know what I mean? But like, it almost comes in like the most unexpected times too. Like,
a lot of songwriters I work with are real impressive because they'll come in with a list of concepts. Might be like 2 words or 3 words, or like maybe a sentence or a question or something, and sometimes we'll roll with that. So over the years, I've kind of been doing the same thing. I have like my notepad on my phone. I just fill that up. Usually, I come up with those best ideas when same thing when I'm not thinking about it too much. Like I might be in the car and like I'll hear something, like whatever I'm playing, or like I'll see something outside, or like just nightlife. Remember that time where we could go out and see people?
I barely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, those were like good times for me because you just see people out on the streets or in a club or a bar or wherever the fuck you're at, and just those were always times where I would come up with a lot of lyrical ideas, just and I put it in my phone, and I would hope the next day when I look at it, it still has the same meaning to myself. When I read it again, I'm like, all right, was that a good idea or was I just a little tipsy? But that's always fun just to load up on those concepts. Those are also like just great tools to like get the session moving. Like if you have something that's relatable and it's only like 3 or 4 words, like you might see it some way, but somebody else might take that sentence or that catchphrase or whatever it is and spin it in a whole other way that you didn't even think about. So, the co-writing process is crazy sometimes.
Yeah, that's definitely the beauty of like the whole creative process as a whole. So that's definitely awesome. I know you said you play keys. I think you play guitar too, right? Like you're kind of multi-instrumental. Like, would you say that?
Yeah. So like, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, if you had to choose like an instrument to kind of get it going, or like maybe what is your strong suit? You'd say what would that be?
They're all kind of equal, but it sort of depends on. I guess it depends on the style that we're going through. So I was like classically trained on the piano, and I studied jazz. Like when I was a teenager, I had a teacher, and like he told me to get these like books from the 70s that were like all about jazz theory, and I wasn't like super into like that type of method, but like I sort of forced myself to get into it, and after like a month or 2 I was like loving it and learning like so much about the theory. By the time I was like in my 20s, I was like, damn, like I'm a jazz musician, I'm a jazz piano player. And then like guitar, I picked it up because probably like a lot of people, like I was listening to Nirvana, and that was like the reason I picked up guitar, and I just wanted to play stuff like that. And then I was playing metal and like, Metallica, all kinds of stuff. But then like I got into reggae, and then eventually I applied the jazz stuff to guitar. So it's like I play them both equally but different. And then I also like to joke and be like, yeah, sometimes I play the guitar like a piano player, or the other way around. I've kind of like flopped the 2 techniques because they're different instruments, but yeah, there's definitely times where a lot of people just want to start on guitar because I feel like it's so easy to write a song to it, and you could like transform whatever you write to a demo on a guitar to other instruments. And the same goes for piano too, or keys or whatever. But a lot of times people like just something simple and not busy. But if it's like a style of music where like we get to show off more on the instruments and stuff, like again, it's like both those instruments. Those are my best friends, So the guitar, like I love making sounds with the guitar that like I put certain effects on them, and like you can't tell it's a guitar. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, what is this alien instrument sound? And then the keys, same thing. There's different things you can go. Just by using MIDI, for example, is like you can do anything, or you can like resample something you played and play it on the keyboard. Like for example, the obvious one, like I'll use my voice as an instrument. I have like, I don't know, hundreds, maybe 1,000 or so of my voice, whether they're phrases or just one note or whatever, and I'll like, turn that into an instrument that I'll play on the keys. And the same thing, people be like, "What is that sound?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my voice."
What DAW are you on these days? Like, are you on one, or are you kind of bouncing around to different ones?
So I do Logic primarily. I love it because of the recording. The templates I have are pretty, like I'm used to certain things, so I can work really quickly on it. However, even with the new versions, there's still times where like it'll just be fucking up. Something about it like annoys me. So I've also been using FL because I have a Mac, and once they started releasing versions on the Mac, I was like, oh sweet. I was like so happy to get into that because I saw so many people, so many producers I work with, just working quickly on it, and just sometimes, like especially when it comes to the hip hop drums, it's like it just feels like it hits harder or something. So I started messing with that. I'm a little bit better at it. I guess I could say I'm proficient at this point. But they're definitely two different languages, so it sort of depends on what's going on. Like if it's a session, usually I stick with Logic because I still feel like that one is my natural sense at this point. I've spent so many years on it. But FL is great for like making my brain think differently, so I don't continue to do the same style of, beats or ideas every single time. It makes me just like, it takes me out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is cool. And again, like sometimes I'll be like listening to the differences of my beats, and I'm like, okay, I should do certain beats on FL versus other pop beats on Logic or whatever. And yeah, I definitely like doing vocals on Logic. Back in the day, I was on Pro Tools, so I was able to sort of translate and understand how to apply the same knowledge of recording vocals on Pro Tools and take it to Logic. So
I know you definitely couldn't probably do vocals in FL because just from experience, like I record my artist in FL, it's not for that, honestly. Like it's really good for like getting like the ideas down, like the beats and everything, and like you can mix pretty well in there, but like every time I've like recorded anything, it's definitely not good for that. But I've heard like Logic and definitely Pro Tools is like the best one for vocals, is what I've heard. But I've only been in FL. I've been in FL 12 since the beginning. I'm not even on 20 yet because I just don't want to. I guess I'm just too lazy to update it. But I do like what you said though about like kind of approaching it by like the genre, the style is kind of what you end up using. Like if you're going for more hip hop, you want to be in FL usually, and like if you're going for like pop or something else, you might be in Logic. I've never heard that, so that's kind of interesting, honestly. But it's pretty good, I think, to learn like different DAWs just so you kind of like can jump in at any time and say like an artist or engineer or someone is using that software, you can be like, oh, okay, I'm kind of familiar now with that, so I can kind of assist where need be. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and they all do something different. Like Logic finally like upgraded some things where they do like something similar to FL when you're just dragging in, the beats and whatnot, the patterns, but it's still not the same. And it took me forever to find out that there's a function where you can actually play your loops or whatever it is, a percussive loop or hi-hat or whatever on Logic, and it'll change the tempo. And it's not perfect, it doesn't work every single time, but that took me years to realize you could do that. So that's the thing about Logic that would irritate me, was just like some stuff is just not easy to discover. It's like sort of hidden or just complicated to find out, oh, you can actually do this, but it takes a couple of extra steps compared to like maybe Ableton, where you just simply just change the tempo of a beat by playing it and making your whole track go faster. Ableton is something else I have, but I don't use it because it scares me. I just look at it, I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know how this makes sense. But that's the other one that a ton of people I know still use that, and like I just watch them work, and I'm just like amazed. But yeah, same thing with FL. It has like certain plugins and certain functions that you can do that are not present on Logic. So that's amazing too. You know, like a lot of times I'll do both. I'll like start with making a sample in Logic, and because I'm pretty quick at that, and like I can make it sound like, you know, I can make it sound vintage, like it actually was something from a different era, but it's like, no, this is all new. And then like I'll consolidate it or whatever, and I'll throw it into FL, and then I'll make the drums around it, you know, and like that way it's like I stop thinking, it's like two different brains. Like I stop thinking about the musicality of it. Like in Logic, I'll be like thinking about like, okay, what, like chord wise, like does this go well with that? Is this going to sound good like that? And then like get the sonics right. And then by the time I dump that sample into FL, it's like, okay, I'm not even thinking about anything, like, you know, whether it was subconsciously thinking about music theory or not. I'm just not thinking about any of that at all. I'm just literally thinking about the feel of the groove, and like whatever samples I made for myself, that's what I'm using. And I might add on to it more, you know, like more music stuff. But yeah, that's kind of been my last method of doing things, like the last like year and a half. Very experimental, but it's fun.
I'm kind of intrigued. Have you ever thought about like just doing sample making, kind of just that as a separate thing, kind of like a Frank Dukes or like what the Kingsway people do, where they like make like samples for like other people to use? Have you ever kind of got into that or ever thought about doing that?
Yeah, I've been doing that a lot. Some of my placements, my bigger placements, have been that. In fact,
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, honestly.
Yeah, whether it was like a co-production where I was in the room with another producer and we made the beat together, or a few times where like I would make, you know, a series of certain guitar sound, you know, whether it was like, okay, I want to make some like 70s type of funky vibes, you know, and then I'd pick a couple guitar tones, and then like I'd make another one, and just try and beat the last one each time. And then I'd just be like, okay, that's my 10 samples in that style, and then, you know, I just throw that around, and sometimes you, especially when like everybody wants the same sample, business wise it gets complicated, because you might get like a couple different people making a beat to your sample, and like and then it turns into two different songs, and then you're like, oh shit, now what do we do? Like is this gonna be, do I have to give it to only one person, or can two people have the same sample? Or, you know, like it gets weird, but it's also a blessing, I guess, when that happens, because then you know you're onto something. You're like, okay, I gotta, whatever I did that day, do that again.
That also helps with like your quick ideas thing, where like you have ideas ready to go, and you can just present those ideas and be like, let's just run with this and just make a full song out of this. So that's really cool. So that kind of goes into back where I had started, which was your whole diversity thing, and kind of like how you like to experiment, do a lot of different things. I'm curious, I know you mentioned Nirvana earlier, so who else, when you were coming up, or maybe even now, are you listening to that's kind of like you're drawing a lot of influence from, or you're like, wow, I really like that person's music, and you're just trying to incorporate that in what you do?
Yeah, so I mean, from growing up, you know, I was always like classic rock, like Jimi Hendrix, the Doors. And I think once I got to like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, that's when I really became interested in production and recording. When I found out that Jimmy Page was, you know, behind the production in a lot of those Zeppelin songs, I was just like, okay, that's crazy. So he's in the group, and he's also like taking control of his sound, not, you know, just by himself, but he was one of the leaders. So that was inspiring in the beginning. Then I got, you know, just like everybody else, like Kanye. Once I heard The College Dropout, I was just like, whoa, you know, that like really changed a lot of ideas. And I was like, okay, I started making piano based beats and stuff like that, like a lot of gospel-y stuff. And that as an artist, that sort of like was my sound for a long time, just making almost like chill music or happy music. Funny enough, though, these days I make more moody stuff. But so that was probably, you know, whatever that was, the early Kanye years. And I would say like these days, there's so much. But off the top of my head, like I'm always a fan of like soulful type of stuff. So like Anderson .Paak is like, you know, definitely a lot of his earlier stuff. Like I love just like the the funky stuff. And I was always a Tyler the Creator fan. Like his jazz incorporations in his beats, just like so crazy to me. Um, and who else? I mean, somebody that I worked with and had some success with was Flume. And before I even worked with him, I was a fan. Like once I heard his production, I was like, this is the best producer ever. Like his shit is so unreal. And then well, to change subjects, I guess. When I actually did work with him, he was cool enough to like, he was like showing me on his laptop, like, I was like, what did you do? How did you just make that sound? And he'd be like, oh, I just used this effect and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like blown away to work with him in person a few times because he just seems to always evolve, and again, just so different. Like his stuff is just like always so weird and just, he doesn't follow the same rules. So I've always been inspired by that type of message.
I know, like, I've heard a few of his songs. My favorite song by him is, God, it has Pusha T in it, I think. I think it's called Enough, maybe. But, like, I heard that song, and I was like, man, this dude's, like, his style and, like, the aesthetics he uses and everything and, like, the different sounds. Like, he had, like, a synth that, like, sounded like you were scraping, like, a freaking, like a chalkboard or something. But it sounded good. But, like, the way he, like, put it together with, like, the drums and everything, and, like, he does, like, cross, like, EDM and hip-hop and stuff, like, everything I heard from him and, like, Bauer. Bauer's another great guy that does a lot of that type of stuff, too. So, like I said, kind of like yourself, I always admire people that kind of, like, can, like, combine a lot of different sounds and make their own thing out of it and everything. So, what album did you work on with him? What song was that? Because I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, so it's off Skin, and it was his. I'm on 2 tracks on Skin. One of them is "Never Be Like You," which is that the one that was all over the radio and all that. And that was the first day that I worked with him, and just crazy how that all works out. We ended up working on like probably 10 to 12 tracks that day. And Never Be Like You was like probably the second or third one that we worked on, and it was already kind of developed. So I was just like sort of helping out and just helping close out that song. But another one I'm on is called Numb and Getting Colder, and that one's like really weird, classic Flume style, just like kind of like what you said, like the scrape sound effects, and just you can't even describe what the sound is that you're hearing. So, but yeah, we've done a couple other things too that just never came out. Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to check those out then, because I didn't know you worked with him actually. So that's pretty cool. So is there anybody that you named or maybe that you didn't name that you'd eventually in the coming years want to collaborate with in some way? You think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the list always grows. For the longest time, I've always been wanting to work with Childish Gambino. I don't know what his deal is, if he's even trying to put out music anymore. But always a fan of his because he would just like cross over in so many genres. I worked with Drum, or formerly known as Drum, now Shelly. I worked with him once or twice, and that was a lot of fun. We ended up making like some Outkast type music. I grew up loving Outkast, so that was amazing. So I would love to get back in with him. Like I mentioned, Anderson .Paak earlier. I actually met him like weeks before the pandemic lockdown started. So that was one of those moments where I was just like, I was like, how do I break the ice here? He doesn't know who I am. I was just like, yo, I know some of your people, and can I send you some tracks? So I've been pitching him some stuff here and there, just via email. Yeah. Other than that, like I feel fortunate that I've worked with so many amazing people. But as more young talented artists come out, I just pretty much anybody who's dope. Like it doesn't even have to be like the number one radio artist. I just like good music.
You and Anderson Paak would be like really awesome. Honestly, I could see how that could like be an amazing collaboration. And like to me, he's always seemed like kind of a guy that like he contributes such a big part to every record he's a part of. You know what I mean? Like whether he's on a hook or just maybe on background vocals or whether it's his own music, he always seems like he's becoming the cheat code. Honestly, like kind of what like Ty Dolla $ign has become in a way where like whenever he's on a song, like he just makes it stand out even more. Like I think like he has kind of graduated to that level of like when he's on the record, like he makes that big of a difference, and like he it's very important to whatever song he's on. So, and like it was cool last year to see him on like the Nas record, and he was on the Big Sean record, and like he's just kind of becoming bigger and bigger every year. So that would be I'd love to hear that if you guys can make that happen for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, all in due timing. Like you said, the whole pandemic kind of threw a wrench in a lot of things. So, but I wish you luck on that. So I only got a few more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here. Is there any advice? This could be business advice as well. Let's say music business advice that you would give to people that have only a few years experience in music, or they're trying to figure out kind of like how to get things going. Is there any advice you'd give them to say this is very important when you're starting out, as opposed to just going in with no information whatsoever and just kind of trusting everyone you see? Like, was there ever an experience that you had that you kind of had to be like, okay, I gotta kind of learn my way around things here?
Yeah, I mean, beyond the obvious of just like, you know, continuously working to develop your craft and improve yourself and just never stopping, because you know it's a tough industry, and everybody at whatever level, you know, is going to have ups and downs, you know, little hiccups in their career and whatnot. So just continue to remind yourself while you're doing it, why you love it, and try and look for new inspiration. But when it comes to getting out there and starting, you know, it's like you got to be a people person. You got to be open to criticism, to feedback. You know, some people are harsh, some people are nice, some people are, you know, it's just different personalities in the game. So you being able to adjust and kind of just be resilient and take things with a grain of salt when it comes to, you know, heavy criticism, but also listen to people, you know, and because a lot of times we all hear our product a certain way, and as we get more and more confident, it's a good thing. But sometimes you need other people's ears to really show you that what you're missing, or just expose you to something that you never saw.
That constructive criticism, essentially, at the end of the day. And like,
yeah, finding a community is great. You know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I was in the beginning, I didn't really have, I wasn't really exposed to too many people. So in a sense, it was great because it helped push me to do all these things, because I had no other choice. So I was like, okay, I guess I got to do it all myself. But once I got into this huge city of like everybody does the same thing, it wasn't that I needed an attitude adjustment necessarily, but it was that I needed to like understand that it's important to go out there and work with many different minds, and you know, just kind of, you know, grow with different people, you know. And it was once I got into more sessions and found out who more people were, and more people found out who I was, you know, I look back at like, you know, the time of like maybe 3 years and the difference that made in my skills and just how I worked faster and how I worked smarter instead of harder. You know, a lot of that was just literally being exposed and throwing myself out there and taking risks.
Basically pushing yourself out of your comfort zone at the end of the day.
Yeah, because you can stay home and do this shit in your bedroom or wherever it is, basement. You can do it all the time, forever. But eventually, it's like you got to take that plunge, and you know, especially if you believe in it. And you know, as you develop and make some bold moves, you know, eventually, I like to believe that, you know, the right people will come to you. You know, if you have if you have the right sound and just stuff that like inspires a couple people, and then it probably inspires a lot more people as you grow your audience or get out of your bubble or whatever. So yeah, you got to take that plunge, and sometimes that might mean moving to a bigger city where there is more of a music scene or whatever. Again, we're in strange times, so that's a little limited at the moment, but this is a good time to like really stack up on your skills. I mean, the ability to get out there and meet people online is greater than it ever has been. So, there's really no excuses why people can't just like learn from each other, even in these dark times.
I myself, I'm kind of a firm believer in like the creative ceiling. There shouldn't be a creative ceiling for anyone, honestly. Like, you should always have new goals or new things you want to learn. Like, you can always continue learning, even if you've had great success or you've been kind of, even on the opposite side, if you feel stagnant or whatever, you just have to kind of dig deeper to figure out, what can I learn today? Like, every day, I think you just try and learn something new about any side of whatever you're trying to do. So I think that's always very important for anyone trying to do, especially in the creative field, in the music field. So that's definitely great advice. Now, if you could go back 10 years ago, Geoffro, maybe tell yourself anything, give yourself advice, or maybe not do anything at all, what do you think you would do?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I don't know if I have a great answer for it. I don't know if I would change much due to the time. That 10 years was kind of a change in my life anyway. That's when I signed my first publishing deal. I was like in a licensing thing that wasn't really going anywhere, and then I just met some different people, and that was kind of around the time where things really improved for me about 10 years ago. But I mean, ultimately, I feel like the best things I did was prior to that was that I kept my head up. I was new to LA still, and I was trying to figure it out, and I was exhausting myself, working different jobs, doing auditions, doing acting auditions, doing everything. And I don't look at that like I spread myself too thin, but there were people telling me I was doing too much. So, I wonder if I was maybe, utilizing my time to only focus on one thing, if things would have happened sooner. But then again, I don't look back with regret, and I don't know. I'm happy with the way things played out. Maybe the only thing I could say is, like, if you asked that question, like, for a longer time span, maybe I would have moved to LA sooner, perhaps, instead of like just being a little nervous about it. And but it was, for me at that time, it was like I was trying to figure out, like, should I go to New York, because I was on the East Coast at the time anyway. But I was trying to save up money anyway and figure it out, and I think 2003, right when the College Dropout came out, was like, that was when I bought that CD. That was the first time I visited LA, and that like sort of like inspired me. I was like, maybe I should move out here. But then I didn't move out for like at least 4 years. So who knows? Maybe it would have been even more beneficial if I just moved out the next year.
So 10 years from now, where do you think you want to be?
Hopefully just doing the same thing. Hopefully, an even better resume, and if the music industry doesn't like implode, I think things are developing in a positive way. I hope that songwriters and artists are going to get paid more. There's people working on that constantly, but hopefully doing the same thing, and perhaps even maybe doing more things, like, involved in film or other avenues. I'm always networking with people even outside of the music industry. I'm always looking for new things, whether they're creative or not so creative, just as like potential backup plans. That's the other amazing thing about living in these bigger cities is all the networking you can do. You can meet amazing people from all over the world that, you know, inspire you in different ways, and they're not even like music oriented or whatever. So hopefully in 10 years from now, I'll have more development in my career, and yeah, I'll just still be loving, you know, waking up and making music.
Now I know you always got a lot of stuff in the works, and I know you don't want to jinx anything, but is there anything we can look forward to for 2021 that we might be hearing soon or seeing soon? Anything you can reveal, though?
Yeah, it's always hard to tell like what's gonna come out. I've had a lot of things that were like about to come out and they didn't. But you know, there might be something with Pink Sweats coming out. I've had a couple songs with him. I think we're just like waiting to see what happens. I'm probably gonna put out some songs that I'm singing on. I might also put out like a little side project of just like beats that I love that either really aren't doing anything or they just sound better as an instrumental anyway. So yeah. Right now it's sort of like I feel like I'm always playing catch up, which is good and bad. So I'm still finishing tracks that like I wrote with artists like back in December, but I'm almost caught up on that. So I'm hoping this week I'll be back on moving forward, and yeah, this year could be anything. You know, I try and tell myself that every year. It's just like keep moving. I don't focus too much on like the disappointments or whatever. I just try and brush it off and keep moving. You know, because it's a weird game, you know, and as long as you keep making new stuff, people are going to keep asking for it anyway. So.
And do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, you know, ultimately, if you feel like this is something you should be doing, you know, and you're in a situation where you don't have many people around you who are, you know, encouraging you to do it or pushing you to, they're trying to push you to do other things. I don't know. I think it's important to listen to yourself. You know, if you have passion for it, and you're willing to you know, to deal with rejection and willing to, like, you know, you're understanding that sometimes these things take a long time. You know, we pay attention mostly to the people that have overnight success, and that can be really inspiring. But the truth is, a lot of times that overnight success took a long time. You know, it just, we're perceiving it that way. And there's a lot of people that they don't even get their big break until like they're, who knows, like in their 30s or something, you know. And when you get to meet people like that and you talk to them and you're like, it's inspiring and impressive what they've gone through just to get like a mega hit or whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be a mega hit, just something amazing that was influential and everybody loves their work, you know. So nobody really has the same timeline. So nobody ever has the same life, and nobody has the same skills. So, you know, if you have the hunger for it and you're willing to put up with a lot of bullshit, you should definitely go for it, because at the end of the day, you know, anything in life is gonna be rough. So it's more fun to do music, in my opinion. I don't want to be in an office doing something that my boss is telling me to do. I'd rather take all the hardship of what I'm, you know, involved in.
The only person at the end of the day I think can stop you is you at that point. You know what I mean? Like, I think people forget that a lot. That like you are usually your biggest enemy when it comes to that. But
yeah, for sure, you can get in your own way, and you can let people get into your head, and you can get in your own head, and it's like, you know, you have the ability to listen to all that noise or try and filter it out.
Well, that's all very well said, man. I appreciate that, and that's all I had for you today, man. Like I said, I appreciate you getting back with me. I thought this was a great conversation, and hopefully we can do this again sometime, maybe in person, you know, once this whole pandemic kind of slows down. I know where you're at, it's like crazy because there's cases going up and all kinds of stuff, but I should be making my way out there. Maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe we could do this again. I don't know.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you for, you know, having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for listening today. That was episode number 37. We'll be back same time next week. As always, hit that support button on your podcast streaming platform if you want to send funds. If you haven't had the chance yet, feel free to go to provenknowledge.net/shop if you want to check out some of the new merch pieces we put out at the end of January. Like I said before, we'll have more coming very soon. We're going to try and do seasonal drops and special maybe holiday drops and things like that on special occasions. But like I said, until next week, same time, same place. Thanks a lot.